I live in Australia, and to be honest, my life is fairly normal. I live in a good neighborhood, and nothing creepy has happened to me in a long time, except for one occasion. I'm not sure if I dreamed this or not, but to me and my sister, it is real. When me and my sister were about 5 or 6, we lived in a small town where everyone was fairly nice and friendly. The house in which we lived in was a house provided by my dad's work, and when he got fired, we had to move, but that's not relevant. The house was fairly big and was secluded during the night. It was on a hill next to an oval, my primary school, and next to us was a golf course. Me and my twin sister at the time shared a room. The room was large and had a big sliding door cupboard. Our beds were in the opposite side of the room, and so we could see the cupboard perfectly, if it was open or closed. One night, around midnight, me and my twin were asleep in our beds. For some reason, I woke up and happened to see in the dim light that one side of the cupboard door was open. Even as a little kid, I hated cupboard doors being open at night, so I got up out of my bed, which, now looking at my decision, was neither good nor bad. I walked towards my cupboard, and instead, out of curiosity, I opened the closet. There was a tall, slim man standing in my closet. I started to cry, and the man started to shush me, and at that moment he told me he was my dad, and stupid me believed him. He led me to my bed and laid me down. He started to say to me about going to sleep and staying in bed. I fell asleep soon after, and when I woke up, he was gone. The scarier thing was that my sister said to me that she saw the man talking to me and then leaving. I'm sorry if this isn't as creepy as other stories here, but looking back at it, I'm now 14, and it creeps me out that that man could have done anything to my family, and I wouldn't have known. I even let him tell me he was my dad, even though he was nothing like my dad. So to that creepy guy that was in my closet, let's not meet again. I'm a female in her early 20s, scrawny little thing. Live alone with my 3-year-old daughter. We live in a 3-bedroom home with a large back section and long driveway. One of the rooms is used for storage, and my daughter is slowly transitioning into sleeping in her own bed. On this particular night, she had had a nightmare and had crawled into bed with me. I'm utterly terrified of everything, really, so I absolutely hate living by myself. I get freaked out by the slightest of noise outside at night, and they tend to keep me awake for at least half an hour while I try to determine whether or not it's a threat. It never is, I'm just horribly paranoid. Because of this paranoia, I make sure that all the doors and windows are locked securely before I go to bed each night. This happened a couple days after Christmas. It was around 1 a.m., nothing unusual for me, I'm quite the night owl, and I began hearing noises outside. I assumed it was a possum, as I'd been having problems with them recently, but I turned the laptop volume down to listen, just in case. My paranoid mind was informing me that since it was just after Christmas, someone might be trying to break in to steal presents. I heard scurrying in the grass, which went on for a while, back and forwards at the rear end of the house. I figured it was a bit strange that the possum wasn't making its god-awful noise as usual. That's when the rattling started. The rattling started in the kitchen, moved around to my daughter's room, then mine, then finally the lounge. Someone was trying the windows. I grabbed my phone and slid out of the bed, pressing my back against the bedroom door. I could hear someone talking outside, which made me figure there was more than one person. As I was dialing emergency services, I swear I heard footsteps inside the house. At this point, my heart was thumping so loud that my breath came out in the same pattern. I'm on the phone with emergency services, trying to listen to what was going on, back pressed up against the door, fearing that the door handle would turn any moment and I'd be pushed along the ground as they forced the door open. There were still footsteps inside. I didn't know if it was just noise of the house or if whoever was outside had managed to get in. They were coming from my daughter's room, which is right next to mine. My daughter, by the way, is quite happily sleeping oblivious in the bed while I'm on the phone freaking out to the operator. I was trying my best to keep quiet on the phone, as I knew that the people are outside at the window right next to my room. I'm not sure if they heard me on the phone, or if they had just given up, but they had disappeared before the police arrived. I was terrified to step out of my room when I heard them at the door, in case these people were inside of my house waiting for me. My bedroom door and the front door are only a couple of steps away from each other, but that didn't make it any less scary as I threw it open and ran to the front door to unlock it. One officer stayed inside with me, checked the house, and took my statement, while the other checked around the outside. They both said they couldn't find anything, and asked me to describe the voice. It was a male's voice, Indian accent. I told them either he was crazy and talking to himself, or there was more than one person out there. I told them I had thought that he had managed to get inside, but since the police had done a thorough walk around, I guess it was my mind just freaking out. Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all that night, and as soon as the sun had rose, I was throwing open all the curtains. The lounge was the last place I went. As I opened the final curtain, I saw that the lock on the window was open. There was a dirty footprint on the windowsill and more dirt smeared on the carpet. I did a thorough check of the house. Nothing was taken. Nothing was out of place. And the more I thought about it, the more I think the voice belonged to my ex. We're in court at the moment because he had done something to my daughter. That's a story for another time. Access was taken away from him, and he, or rather my aunt, shall I say, pushed him to take it to court, and things have been a bit sour there. If it was him, I'm terrified to think what he wanted. He was physically and sexually violent towards me, but the fact of the matter is, he didn't even try my room. He went straight for my daughter's, which is even more worrying, as I've never even let him remotely near my house. So how did he know where he was going? What did he want? What did he want with my daughter? What would have happened if she had never had a nightmare and come crawling into my bed that night? This happened in 1979 when I was a 17-year-old girl. I was in London for summer school and stayed with a family friend, Jane, in her apartment. One night, I went to a party and ended up staying really late. Being a poor student, I decided to bus home and got off at the closest bus stop to the apartment, which was still a good 20 to 30 minute walk. By then it was after midnight and the streets were completely empty. I walked down the street hearing nothing but the sound of my shoes clapping against the pavement. I noticed this guy come out of one of the houses up the street. He was walking towards me on the same side of the road. We passed by each other without incident. I continued walking down the dimly lit streets, turning my head to see behind me at one point, and saw the same guy, only now he was walking behind me, keeping his distance. Not wanting to assume he was following me or show any fear, I looked straight ahead and increased my walking speed a bit. After 10 long minutes of walking down several deserted blocks, I finally turned the dark corner into my street. There were still about 5 minutes left till I got home. I stole one more glance behind me. There he was, still keeping his distance. In that moment, it became quite clear that he was following me. A sense of dread spread through me on the dark, lonely street as I tried to remain calm and just get home as soon as possible. The apartment was part of a complex, and the front door was located at the back, so he had to go around to get to it. This meant that if I was fast enough, there was a good chance he wouldn't see which apartment was mine. I walked as fast as I could without running and finally reached the front door. No sight of him. Good. With the key in my badly shaken hand, I fumbled at the doorknob, terrified, praying to get in before he finds me, and I'm never seen or heard from again. My prayers were answered, and I managed to unlock it, finally. I hurried inside and locked the door, safe and able to breathe again. I went upstairs to my bedroom. Then I made a mistake. My bedroom faced the street, and when I entered, I turned on the light. The curtains weren't drawn, and I saw him standing there looking straight up at me. Next thing you know, he's ringing the doorbell. Panicking, I ran downstairs into Jane's room, who was woken up by the doorbell. I explained the situation to her and asked her not to open the door. She said she had to because she didn't want him waking the neighbors. I watched her go, staying in her bedroom. He asked, "Is Mary there?" He must have decided to pretend to ask for someone when he realized I wasn't there alone. She responded, "There's no one here called Mary." He apologized and then left. I breathed a sigh of relief and watched him through the window as he left. As he was walking, he turned around and I had the unfortunate opportunity to meet his eyes once more. He scowled at me through the glass. I shuddered. The next day, Jane told me all about the dodgy things and crimes that happened in that area. Turns out it wasn't a particularly safe area. After that, I only went out during the day. I thankfully never saw that guy again. But sometimes I wonder what could have happened if Jane wasn't there that night.